We weren't nearly late because we were busy talking about other things. Welcome to episode 127 of the Mighty Whites podcast. This one will probably be a bit shorter because we've notes to preview. But as always, John back KC.
Yeah, all right, mate. I'm glad you were showing me those stockings you were wearing just before we started.
Well, you know, when you're my size, it helps with DVT. Well, we'll get straight into the game from the weekend, I suppose. There was a lot of reaction straight after a game that made it seem like we got beat about 4-0 in this one. But I can sort of understand it because you get a draw away from home against a team that have been consistently in the league, and you think, in principle, that's not that bad a result. But if you watched Burnley play, you'd think not beating them is a bad result.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say. I was about to say it wasn't a good game of football. I found it entertaining, but not as a sporting spectacle, I think.
Did you find it entertaining in an anthropological sense because we had to go to Burnley?
Yes, and with where we were located, we were hiding in plain sight, I believe, is the best way to describe it.
Yeah, well, before we actually get into the game, we'll talk about that a bit. We got tickets in the Burnley end for this because all you need to get tickets in the Burnley end is an email address, which, you know, was handy. Couldn't get them in the away end, so it was nice to be able to go. And, you know, we weren't arseholes about anything. We didn't jump up and sing or out when Leeds scored or like that. I think it's, you know, you play the game, you sit there, you be quiet, don't be a dick, and no one should get mad at you. And in fairness, they didn't. But Burnley, in terms of their football supporting population, is a weird place. Like, I have never in my life been surrounded by a set of fans with less of an understanding of what was going on a football pitch. And I am sure that that's not the case for the whole ground. Maybe it's just because we bought it in the quiet a bit where people were just buying tickets on the day and stuff like that. But it was as if they had never seen a game of football before. About, what do you reckon, 40% of them?
Yeah, the guy who sat in front of us, who, outside of occasionally shouting, "Get him off," the only sound I ever heard from him was, "Hey!"
Yeah.
Like, it could have been a shot that hit the corner flag, could have been Nick Pope making the best save that you've ever seen. That was his reaction to Leeds not scoring every time, no matter the situation.
Yeah, that's, of course, the same guy that appealed for Patrick Bamford to be sent off for Ben Mee kicking him up in the air.
Yeah.
And he was not someone who's never been to a game before because he knew the songs. I say knew the songs. They sang almost exclusively the same song, and it took me 70 minutes to figure out what they were saying because they were going, and I eventually worked out that I'm about 80% sure it was Burnley of a team for me. But it's not like, oh, the whole crowd was chanting, and sometimes it's hard to make out diction in that situation. No, this was even when there was only a few of them and they were right next to me, and I still couldn't figure out what they were saying.
Yeah, their chanting was about as good as their PA system was at putting out notices. I tell you what, if my car had been broken into, was being towed, I would not know about it.
No, you couldn't hear a thing, could you, when their tannoy system went off?
No.
It was very good though when that is the tannoy system. It was ridiculous. But I suppose that's the funny versions. The less funny versions of going to watch a game at Burnley is seeing a couple of people walking around openly with Nazi tattoos on display, which was also the case.
Yeah, there's a reason Burnley has the lowest house prices in the country.
Yeah, and there's a reason that Nick Griffin got elected there.
Yeah, it's very strange. I'm trying to think. Yeah, the last time I would have sat in the away end, or the home end, I suppose, was when me and Connie all went to Bradford.
Yeah.
For that League Cup game.
I still maintain that League Cup game was a good thing. We needed to lose that because it meant Hockaday was gone immediately. Because I couldn't have put up with it for another 2 days.
No. God bless Luke Murphy for those 2 red card offences that he managed to get in. But yeah, it was definitely an interesting experience once in the stadium. Like you say, I think we were in one of the cheaper parts of the ground that probably wasn't season ticket holders.
It wasn't that cheap. It was 35 quid.
I say cheaper because there was 40 quid tickets on sale.
Yeah.
But I don't think we were in a spot of a lot of season ticket holders or anything like that.
No, true. Like, I am assuming that the core that go, which would be maybe 60% of the people there, they probably do have an actual understanding of football. It's just that where we were, I've never seen it like it. And the other thing with Burnley, when you think about Burnley, it's right. They'll get stuck in. They try and turn it into an old school game, physical, knock you about, get into a battle because they back themselves to win in the battle. And that is absolutely fine. Sean Dyche has kept that team in the league for years and years, even got them into Europe once with a squad that shouldn't be. So I've no problem with that. What did annoy me was, if you're going to support a team that plays like that and admits to playing like that and is proud of playing like that, you cannot be like the most pathetic fan base I've ever seen when it comes to any tackle on your players. They turn into, like, if someone breathed near Ashley Barnes, you would have thought that they'd got out a knife and stabbed him.
It's that really odd combination of, Burnley, they're a very physical team. Also, Burnley, they don't like it up them.
Yeah, Burnley, they're a very physical team. Burnley, they turn into Jack Grealish if you go anywhere near them.
Yeah, and I think for us through the game, it was a scrappy game. It was definitely a scrappy game. You had Patrick Bamford going on about his jiu-jitsu contest with Tarkowski at the back. Then you had conversely, you had Ashley Barnes just nailing Stuart Dallas while he's midair.
Yeah, which obviously where we were, we actually had a decent view of that. And I remember having to turn to you and quite quietly go, mate, that was definitely a red card. Like, it absolutely was.
Yeah, it was fine though, because Stuart Dallas landed on Ashley Barnes' back, so that sort of evened it up.
Yeah,
it is my understanding of that decision.
Just on the topic, hopefully everything's all right with Stuart Dallas because he's withdrawn from Northern Ireland squad for personal reasons. So hopefully it's nothing too serious, whatever's happened. But, hopefully you're all right.
First half I won't say we had a couple of good chances. We got the ball into good areas, and then there was a couple of times where Bamford had that heavy touch that went back to Nick Pope.
Yeah, that was a big chance. And the one, I think that was the first one. So about 10, 15 minutes earlier, we had another break similar and got Rafinha through. And he put it wide on his right foot.
Yeah. And then I'm trying to think of Burnley's chances in that first half, because I remember them having a decent bit of possession, but I don't really like that. I don't know if it's all because it was just around corners and Chris Wood and Diego Llorente having a bit of a scrap. That
they had a few. The chances weren't great, but like Strauch left that back pass short in first half.
And there was Pat Bamford's attempted back pass that went off the post.
Yeah, is that what we're going with? He was trying to head it back to Meslier.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, and then it was a weird one. Like, for 15 minutes, I thought the game was really even. And then I thought Burnley got on top. But then we had 2 breaks while they were on top that were probably the 2 best chances of the first half. Second half, up until they scored, Burnley were miles better side.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much from the start of the second half, I thought Burnley just came out the better team.
That's a worry, by the way, because we've had 3 games now, and all 3 we've started the second half really badly.
It's a tough one because I think we were predicting last time that, well, I think we all kind of knew going in that it was going to be the 3-3-1-3. But it's it's again when you play teams like this, and I understand why we make these changes, but when I do genuinely think when you look at the quality of our squad or our starting lineup anyway, compared to Burnley's, I still don't entirely understand changing the way we play to match them. I know how it works with Bielsa. Always wants a spare defender, but there is part of me, and I'm saying this as a Football Manager fan, and that's about it in the context of this conversation. But if I'm playing someone who'd finished 17th the year before, I'm not thinking, best put someone else in defence.
You see, the change in formation didn't bother me at all. I just don't think we played very well. And I am assuming that when this international break finishes, I know that it's not everyone's favourite, but if it comes down to a 50-50 and it's Rodrigo or Roberts, I think Roberts has to win out now.
Again, like for the
in midfield, that is. If Bamford gets injured, I'd play Rodrigo up top.
Yeah, I know. It's obviously I kind of debated it off you because you'll have seen more of it with the Everton game, but it's twice now that Roberts and Shackleton have come off the bench and had decent showings for themselves. I think between the Everton game and this one, I thought Roberts had some decent touches again. I thought Shackleton did really well when he came on, and I thought he really lifted us.
Yeah, he did. Well, there's the goals. It was if you were picking a 1-1 before the game, you'd have probably said Chris Wood and Patrick Bamford would get the goals. But Burnley's started from a set piece again. Tarkowski, really good header, which Meslier made a wonder save from. But then Leeds just don't clear. They have like 4 separate attempts. Like 2 of them get blocked, and the third one's going. Easy save for Meslier, and Chris Wood just gets a little flick on it. That Harvey got a decent touch on it and put it in the other corner. That slight flick that made it look like Meslier should have saved it until he saw it back was a very annoying one, but at set pieces, they look dangerous all the way through. Obviously, we've got much better at defending set pieces. His record for the second half of last season and the start of this season is actually quite good defensively on set pieces after the horrific start we had. But these really just looked to bully us at set pieces, and it was not at all a shock when they scored.
No, at that point they'd been dominating play as well. Diego Llorente hadn't been having the best of times. But I think the issue was, one, knowing we were going to go 3 at the back, that he probably would have to start this one. And then also, coming into it, we had the news that Firpo and Click were both unavailable due to COVID.
Yeah. Well, so, has it actually been confirmed that that's why Firpo wasn't?
Yes, I believe so.
All right,
because I think if I remember rightly, I think he put it on Instagram.
All right, I don't have that. Yeah, that was it. Firpo missing. Firpo missing was a little bit of an issue, but we missed Click. If that's Phillips and Click instead of Phillips and Rodrigo, I think we play better.
Yeah. Unfortunately, especially once you move that extra body out of the middle of midfield, it does expose Rodrigo's lack of defensive quality at that point when you've only got the 2 central midfielders, essentially. Whereas if you've got Click and Phillips there around him, it kind of covers for him a little bit. And it was one of those things, I think, as we were kind of pulling up towards the stadium and parking off when we first saw the bench, it was a very, very inexperienced bench.
Yeah, I mean, Liam McCarron getting the call up because we're so short on left-back options. Being in there, Gelhardt being on it, Somerville. I must admit, obviously we got the equaliser, so decision was justified. But I was amazed that one of Gelhardt or Somerville didn't get thrown on in that scene. Well, not amazed. Amazed is the wrong term because it's Bielsa and he does this all the time. But I was still surprised. Just watching the way the game was going before we equalised, I thought, God, one of these has got to come on.
I was a lot more surprised Helder Costa didn't come on out of any of them.
Yeah.
We'll come on to him.
We'll come on to him in a bit. But Leeds' equaliser, we were lacking quality in the final third. and Rafinha produced that bit to put Charlie Taylor, I was going to say on his ass, but more accurately on his face. Something which Sean Dyche, by the way, Sean Dyche managed to try and complain that was a foul because he got turned and fell over.
Yeah. Charlie Taylor, who, ever since the way he left, like, I think we had a year where we went, nah, fuck that guy. But I think we all moved on from him fairly quickly once we realised how much of a prick Gary Monk was. It's like Professor Wernstrom in Futurama. It's like when they take the grants off him when they realise how much of a jackass he is.
Yeah.
But there is that moment of just going, take that, Taylor, you wanker. But yeah, it was nice play because it was him and Shackleton linking up on the right again. And then he beats...
Which they did a lot once Shackleton came on.
We needed that pace. Not that I thought Dwight McNeil had a good game pretty much up until Shackleton came on. I thought he'd had the beating of Ayling for the most part. Had done well cutting inside and found a bit of space. But I think Shackleton coming on coincided with them starting to play a bit deeper as well. But he was just bombing on, for those 20 minutes or so.
Yeah. So Rafinha beats Taylor, goes for a low shot, it's blocked, comes out to Shackleton. Like side foot, he's going for far corner, gets a little deflection, and Bamford's there to tap it in. Because VAR has ruined my brain at this point, I'm there thinking, is this going to be offside? Even though looking back at the replay, the keeper's there and he had a player on the goal line.
Yeah.
Like, it couldn't have been more onside, but my brain just goes, I can't. I think also, because we were sat in the home end, I didn't get swept up in the euphoria in the same way. So my brain was thinking, this could still be offside.
My reaction was, like, if anyone would have been looking and paying attention, I think I would have given myself away in as much as I was going, what a bad time this has happened. Oh, why? Why?
Get your damn hands off me.
Don't want to be dragged down those stairs. Those are the second steepest stairs in a football ground I've ever been up and down.
Yeah, they were as well. They were seriously dangerous steps. It was, I do think in the end, because of the way that last 20 minutes went, where they dropped off and we went for it, I think we were probably worth a point, but we were only worth a point. Like, I think if Burnley had kept going for it, they'd have won game.
Yeah, I find it weird in as much as I think any up until we scored, if that game would have finished 1-0, you'd have said, "Yep, that's a fair result." And then we scored, and I think we pushed on and tried to create 2 or 3 more chances and kept the play, 20, 30 yards from their goal. So you kind of come away with it in the end that saying, yeah, draw's a fair result. But if the game would have finished 7 minutes earlier, a win would have been fair for them. It's strange.
Yeah, it was a disappointing performance. I just think that we had enough on the pitch where if we'd have just played well, we'd have beat them, but we didn't play well enough. So 3 games, 2 points. That familiar blanket-like comfort of 15th place. I mean, it's not a disaster by any stretch, obviously, but it is a disappointing start.
It is and it isn't in the respect. I think if you break those 3 games down, as much as it's upsetting to ever lose to them, losing to Man United is acceptable for where we are at the moment. A draw with Everton is probably about right for where we are, and going to the new Stoke essentially at this point and getting a point is probably fine.
Although Burnley did have one thing. Being high up in that north stand, it was very picturesque.
It was a lovely view. Absolutely wonderful. Because the other stand across, once you sat where we are as well, it looks like it has about 15 rows to it.
Mm.
So it's really not that high. It also, comical moment for us was watching the ball that went onto the roof, seeing the ball roll down like it was something out of Tipping Point, and everyone just fingers crossed that it was going to nail the fourth official on the head. And I think it landed within a yard or so.
Yeah.
But yeah, just looking out over the Lancashire countryside, essentially, it was quite nice.
I mean, it does say a lot that the one bit of Burnley that was nice was when you had a view of not Burnley.
Yeah, I was happy that I could only see the roof of the houses. And what appeared to be a circus in the distance.
What, you mean insert club? We'll say Blackburn Rovers. I was going to say, could have said Preston, could have said any, really.
Anywhere between Bradford and Blackpool, really.
Yeah. But, yeah, that's not the worst thing. By the way, I have glanced at the team. Phillips starts. Shockingly, Patrick Bamford doesn't.
Did we play 2 or 3 games in this break?
3.
You'll think Pat will start one of them then.
Well, one of them's Andorra, so that one.
Yeah.
That's the one I want him to play, and I want him to get 9.
And then retire.
Yeah.
And take that, Francis Jeffers and Dave Nugent. And I think there's a couple of others who've scored twice and never played again. But yeah, I think when you kind of step back and look at it, as much as it is disappointing to go to the team we finished 17th last season and only get a point, I'll take it at this stage. It could be worse. We've scored in all 3 games, which is 3 more games than Arsenal have scored in this season. It's 2 more points than Arsenal have got this season. And you know what? Even losing 5-1 to Man United, it's, a more enjoyable fight, defeat where we conceded 5 more than Arsenal.
Yeah, it's at least with the Scum game, we got a belting goal.
Yeah, we'll always have that moment with Luke.
Yeah,
I don't know what they have.
I suppose the key is what happens after the break, because obviously, we're, as much as you would like to say that it won't happen, we're heavy favourites to lose as first one back because it's Liverpool.
I don't know. Last season we beat them and drew with them.
Yeah, that's the story, and we're sticking to it. But then we've got that run: Newcastle away, West Ham at home, Watford at home, Southampton away, Wolves at home, Norwich away. All in a row. That's where we need to hit some form and get some results. If we can pick up a few results in that.
I look at that run and think we can solidify a mid-table finish by the end of that run. Like we can wrap the season up after that Norwich game. I think we'll be fine.
Yeah.
Cool. And apologies if we find ourselves in the relegation zone. You can blame me for that.
And I will.
Yeah. And even if we don't, I'll still blame you. Obviously it's going to be a tough one playing Liverpool. They're back to near enough full strength, And we can sympathise with them in many ways. They're a bit short in centre mid. We're a bit short in centre mid. We're pretty much the same club.
Yeah, basically. Like, we should finish within about 4 points of each other. Yeah. We both predicted wins for this, so no points in that. Still early days in that, but neither of us have had a great start. There is just basically a few transfers, and then we'll be done. So. Start with the biggest one. Bryce Asana has gone to Wrexham on a permanent deal.
I think we all know what the big one is here, and it's my boy has left.
It is your boy. He's on the next one. Asana, National League. Wrexham. I mean, it's a club on the up with their millionaire Hollywood owners. It's actually a bit of a shame.
With the lad from It's Always Sunny and Deadpool.
Yeah, of course. For me, it being weird that Mr. Magalini is by far the one I'm more bothered about.
It's Ryan Reynolds. Come on. If nothing else, he was in that episode of Scrubs.
Yeah, Otum Schenk. So yeah, decent move for him, I suppose. We'll see what they do. He got very unlucky. I don't think he was ever gonna he was never going to break into our side, but he did get on the bench a couple of times, and he's basically been injured for like 18 months out of the last 2 years. He's been very unlucky with that, so hopefully he can stay fit. And then we had 2 players join Barrow on permanent deals. One of them, that sounds about right. One of them, I think that move is very low for him. So Jordan Stevens, who seems to have dropped off since he was getting the odd game in the Championship, and your boy Robbie Goss.
Yeah, who, if you believe any of my Football Manager saves, can get in the England team. So there's still time, Robbie. There's still time. Yeah, it's obviously disappointing seeing them leave, but I understand the process behind it as well, in as much as they want to keep players coming through into the 23s, and there's only so much that players at that stage now can achieve. So it's better I think it's better for both parties to move them on for what I assume are limited fees with a bit of a sell-on clause. In the hope that they then can move back up the leagues or something, get a decent move, or just at least to get them playing first team football somewhere. Because, as disappointing as it is for me to see Robbie Gotts leave, because I did like him. I thought he was a good player. He looked good against Arsenal. He'd had that great run in the 23s, had an even better run of not coming off the bench. But yeah, hopefully it's a case of he plays football for a year or two and then can either go up with Barrow or can leave Barrow and go to literally anywhere else.
Yeah. Well, like a sort of a Liam Kitching one where we went to conference and now he's at Barnsley.
Yeah. To Barnsley. There's a nice little. Well, I was Clackador. Is Clackador at Hull now as well?
Clackador's at Barnsley.
He's at Barnsley. I know Coyle went to. Who's the striker that went to Hull? I've forgotten his name now.
Malik Wilkes.
Malik Wilkes. It's Malik Wilkes and Louis Coyle that are at Hull.
It didn't happen, but Malik Wilkes was like linked with a really interesting move on deadline day.
Lazio.
I'm just seeing if I can find Borussia Mönchengladbach and Rennes.
Wow.
I've no idea if there was any truth in it, but I think it was.
He's got a hell of an agent.
Yeah. Mind you, maybe that just make up a move to Germany is a thing, because A.D. White was off to Dortmund, wasn't he, at one point?
He was really fast, though.
Yeah. For Jordan Stevens going to Barrow makes a lot of sense. Obviously, League Two is probably right at the minute, because he has dropped off a bit from where he was. But also, Mark Cooper's manager at Barrow, and Mark Cooper was manager at Forest Green when Jordan Stevens first broke through before we signed him. So that move makes a lot of sense.
I was going to say for him, because he was on trial with Harrogate, wasn't he?
Yeah.
During the summer as well. So again, someone who as soon as we got out of the Championship, it was probably one that was going to be moved on.
Yeah.
But again, just glad to see these guys getting moves and hopefully, getting to play week in, week out, and actually they can actually be professional footballers now that actually play football.
Yeah, as I say, I was very surprised when Gotts went there and it was permanent, because I genuinely thought that someone a bit higher up the food chain would be after him.
He had a good loan spell last year, hadn't he?
Yeah.
Not Alfred McCalmont good, but still, fairly reputable season.
Yeah. And then, obviously, in terms of their pecking order at Leeds, you've got Hassana and then Stevens, and up here's Robbie Gotts. So about here, Helder Costa's gone to Valencia.
Yeah, as soon as Dan James became available, I think everyone looked at Helder Costa like,
Well, it's definitely, this is a proper best for all parties move, because, Helder Costa does have plenty of ability, so if he goes somewhere and plays and gets some confidence, he might, there's an option for them to make it permanent, which, again, this probably, I hope he does well and they make it permanent, and that's probably best for everyone involved. But he's never going to be the guy. And you can't have if we're going to have 4 options out wide, there can't all be people on pretty decent money. Like Somerville being the 4th one is great.
Yeah.
You don't want Costa being the 4th one and Somerville 5th. So I mean, Costa, he came in. He was too expensive. He was too inconsistent. But he was in the team that got us promoted, and that was basically the job he was signed for, even though he was made, even though he then had his time in Premier League. So I don't hate him or anything, but it's about the right time for him to go.
We'll always have Fulham. That none of us were there for.
No.
It's unfortunate to have your best game for the club when no one's there watching. Like,
Yeah.
I know we all saw it. Well, I say we all saw it. That was one of the few games that wasn't televised. So I think.
I think it was. I think it was because I'm fairly sure I watched it on telly.
Oh no, you're right. Sorry, well, it was an early Saturday kickoff, so it will have been on BT. That's why I was having to find dodgy streams of it at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I had to give up on that one if I remember rightly. It was a bad job. Fun times. And
him going, showing that Leeds United were actually telling the truth when they said, no, there is money to do something. It's just we're only going to do it if something comes up. Well, me or you? Well, there we go. That skipped around a bit. I don't know if the sound stopped or not because it was fine here, but we'll never know. So, yeah, the money was there for a centre mid. So we spent it on a winger. Daniel James, £25 million plus add-ons, which is a bit steep, but you do look around at all the other transfers, and that is probably going rate.
Yeah, but I think they're all going to play week in, week out. That's my issue with it.
Are you not subscribing to the Twitter theory that Rafinha's going to play centre mid and/or Jack Harrison's going to play left back?
No.
Oh, same.
No.
I have said for 2 years that eventually Jack Harrison will end up playing a few games at left back for us, but I don't think it's going to be like against Liverpool. It'll be a while.
I mean, I think by the time that he reaches 30s, Jack Harrison won't be too far off like James Milner's positions on Football Manager that he can play in, because Bielsa's like, he can play as a striker, he plays a 10, plays a left back, not a problem. He'll be fine. But even before I take into account his ability and his game, Bielsa will want him to get to his fitness level. He'll probably want him to drop some weight, which, again, I look at him and just think, Christ, the fact that man will have to drop weight is insane. What am I doing with my life? But yeah, he'll probably want him to have a few games in the 23s. And
I think that the 23s play a game the day before the Liverpool game. You won't be at all shocked to see Dan James start and play 45 minutes before getting subbed off to be on the bench against Liverpool.
Wing back. But to be honest, from what I've seen at Man United, I don't think he's as good as Harrison or Rafinha.
He isn't at the minute for sure.
Which is then, I did want us to sign someone who's going to add something to this squad, and he was an improvement on our next 2 wingers. So in that regards, it is a good move that we are strengthening. But at the same time, it's like 25 million for a sub. That's a lot.
The thing that's like I think it is a bit too expensive, and it's not the position I'd have been going for. I think that there was bigger priorities in the squad. But the thing that outweighs all of that by a distance for me is Bielsa fucking loves him. He's wanted him the whole time, and he thinks that he's good. He's exactly what we need. So that makes me just think, fine. I mean, he's absolutely electric on the break, which could be really good for us. The worry is, of course, that Costa's best games were all when we were on the break, and his worst games were all when a team sat back against us. So it is He's a lot better than Costa, but it's the same principle as a player.
I'm worried that he's going to be a Premier League Hadi Sacco. That's my concern. Is that
I think that's a
bit harsh because
that's very unfair.
Yeah, Hadi Sacco was actually quite good. No, I suppose it is the fact that and watching him through the Euros as well. I know Wales weren't at the best. Is that he knows the ball to play. It's just the ability to play that ball at times that I thought let him down. Which when you're on the break and you're attacking as quickly as Leeds do, you can't really afford to have someone break away and then play a pass 2 yards behind Pat Bamford in the middle. So, yeah. What I'm saying is send him back with the receipt. But don't bring Helder Costa back either.
Yeah, I'm the one of the best things about him is, as I say, we both think he'll be on the bench at first. He is exactly the sort of player that is a real threat when you're chasing a game. He's better on the break because that's his main strength. Like he'll probably be even more of a threat in a game that you're 1-0 up in and he comes on with 20 minutes left. But he gives you that much more direct option, someone who can just unsettle a defence purely by being rapid. So I'm looking forward to seeing him in a Leeds shirt. He's obviously someone that we've liked for a while. Unless Harrison gets injured, I don't see him breaking into the starting lineup at all, really.
No, it's a thing of, time and again, everyone will talk about how quick he is and his ability to get past someone. But outside of pace, right now, there's nothing that I rate him better at Harrison than. I think he's just as good as getting past a fullback as Harrison is. I don't think he defends as well. I don't think his final ball is as good. I don't think he's as good a goal scorer as Harrison is. He's not got the assist that Harrison has.
I think that the only time that I can see him starting, I could see him playing when we're playing 3-3-1-3. Because that one is where I could see him trying Harrison deeper with James ahead of him. Not an out-and-out left-back in a back four, but when it's the 5, I could maybe see that. I know that Bielsa has he's definitely looked at Harrison. Like Harrison has played left wing back briefly, but I mean briefly. And he's played a couple of 23s games there.
I think the times he's done it have both been the week we've played Man City.
Yeah,
I think
he's
both
gone
those
well.
Times.
Yeah, dropped him into the 23s because he can't play, and he's played him left back both times. So I think that thought is very back of his head, but not to the extent that it's gone well enough that it's thought this is a plan. In the same way that when we first got Rafinha, he stuck him in the 23s for those few games, as he does with everyone, and he did play him central a couple of times, but he hasn't done it since.
No,
so
and it's that strange thing of, and this is where I kind of struggle with the logic of the people who've said about moving Rafinha into the middle. Like, arguably, I know it ended up being Stuart Dallas, but Rafinha was right up there for one of our player of the year contenders last year. And I don't know why, after the season he had, bearing in mind he joined late on as well, that you'd look at that and think, I'll best move him into the middle. Like, no, don't. But just, I'd rather go buy a better central player. Leave him where he is. He's doing great.
Yeah, that is the thing with the deal. Obviously, I'm happy to have him. I think he's a good player. I think he improves the squad. But if we had 25 million to spend, I do think there were better ways to spend it. In the same way that a lot of people, and they have been proved right, a lot of people said the same when we signed Rodrigo, saying if we've got that amount of money, there's more important areas and better styles of player to sign. Like,
yeah, I suppose at the moment though, the one thing you do have to say is that between certainly Orta and Bielsa, they have built up a vast amount of trust that they couldn't get a couple of transfers wrong, and I think we'll forgive them fairly quickly for it.
Yeah, like it's going to be a better deal than Jean-Kevin Augustin.
Don't remember him.
Yeah,
I don't think he played for us.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure that's a legal defence at the moment. I've never seen that man in my life. That's not Jean-Kevin Augustin. That's old man Tronson.
Right. So the last thing to say with James is, how many goals do you reckon he'll get this season?
I'm gonna be really pessimistic, but I'm gonna say 2.
I'm gonna go 5. We have the odd performance where we really get a team and then score a few late on. I can see us having a couple of games where we're 1-0 up with 15 minutes left and he destroys people on the break and we end up winning 3-0.
So what you're saying is Newcastle?
Yeah. which we have to try and remember to get tickets for on Monday.
Yes.
Yeah. So that will do us for episode 127 at Mighty White's podcast. I don't know when we'll be back, to be honest. It'll be next week at some point to preview the Liverpool game. Liverpool, nice easy game to come back after international duty at least. The stuff we write goes on through it altogether, which is at THIU et al. THIU. I turned into a Burnley fan then. At THIU et al. LUFC on Twitter. We're on Twitter at Mighty Whites Pod. Have we out to add, Casey?
No, I think we got it all.
Nice one. Well, I've been Jack. See ya.
I'm in Casey. Have a good one.
In a bit.